Hey, I'm National Master Alex King for Cool Math Games, and this is Chess Master Tips and Tricks. So it's time to talk about the endgame, the point in the game where only a few pieces are left and you're in a position to checkmate your opponent. Now I want to show you how to plan out that checkmate and some really useful moves for finishing your opponent off. Sound good? All right, let's go to the board and get started. All right, so the very first thing you need to know is the difference between checkmate and stalemate. Let's look at an example where white is one move away from ending the game. The right move is the checkmating move, which is this. Why is this checkmate? Well, black is in check with our queen. And now black has no way to get out of check. He can't run with his king. He also can't capture our queen because we're protecting it with our king. But what if we had made this move instead? All right, so now black is trapped. He can't move anywhere. He can't move any other pieces, but he's not in check. The square that the king is on is not under attack. So that would spoil everything because a stalemate is just a tie. It's just a draw. We don't win the game. How do we even get into this situation where we can checkmate our opponent in the first place? Well, often in the endgame, you need to use some pieces that you don't usually use as attackers. For example, in this situation, take a look at this pawn right here. This pawn is what's called a passed pawn, meaning that it can go all the way to the end of the board and become a queen. And there's no enemy pawn that can stop it. The files next to it are totally clear. Black has some pawns, but they're way over here, and they can't stop our pawn from marching to the end of the board and turning into a queen. So we have this passed pawn. What do we do with it? We push it. Now he might try to chase us and catch us, but here, if we just keep pushing our passed pawn, he can't stop us in time. We get all the way to the end, just in time, we make a queen, and now we're definitely going to win. Okay, now that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you might be in a situation where you need to use your king to support your pawn. You don't want to activate your king early in the game because it might get under attack, it might get checkmated, but in the end game, the king might be the most powerful attacking piece you have. Now here white needs to use his king because if he just pushes his pawn, black is going to catch this pawn in time. He's a little bit closer, so we can't make a queen. So what we need to do instead is we start off by using our king. So we're going to bring our king up and take a look at how white's king is going to push black's king around. Boom. We push black to the side, and now we start charging forward with our king. We push him to the side, we charge forward, and now we've kind of cleared a path for our pawn to go all the way to the end of the board and become a queen. Now black can't stop us from doing that. So we're using both our king and our pawn as very powerful attackers in the endgame. So now that we've made a queen, we are in the most important endgame in chess. I have seen so many inexperienced players mess this endgame up, not know what to do, and only end in a stalemate. So there are 3 steps to this endgame. Step 1 is we want to push this king all the way into the corner. If he's in the corner, he's trapped, he's going to be easy to checkmate. So to push him into the corner, we use our queen to make a box. Our queen is controlling all these squares, and it kind of makes a sort of like an electric fence that black's king can't walk past. So he has to kind of stay inside the box, and then we follow him and we make the box smaller. So every time black makes a move with his king, we shadow him with our queen, and our box gets smaller and smaller. And eventually, see how he's moving closer to the corner, which is where we want him. As the box gets smaller and smaller and smaller, eventually he will be forced to go into the corner, just where we want him. Now this is the hardest part of this endgame. You have to be careful not to stalemate here. If you move the queen so close that the box is too small, this is a stalemate. It's stalemate because black is not in check, but he has no safe moves and no other moves to make with another piece. So he's trapped but not in check. That's a stalemate. That would be a tie. That's a very bad move, and we don't want to do that. We want to leave black with always like one safe move to make until we're ready to checkmate him. The next step is really easy. We're just going to walk our king up. We're going to walk our king as close as we can get. And we can take our time doing this because look at what black's doing. He's just moving back and forth with his king because he's almost totally trapped. All right, so our king got as close as we can get. That's the end of step 2. Now it's time for the most fun step. Boom. This is a checkmate. We're checking black's king, and he can't go anywhere else. We've got all these squares protected. All right, so what did we learn? Avoid stalemate. Make sure your opponent's king always has at least one safe move until you're ready to checkmate him. If you have a passed pawn, push it so it can become a queen. Use your king because it's a powerful attacker in the endgame. And finally, plan out your checkmate. Usually this means pushing your opponent's king into a corner. If you keep these 4 ideas in mind for your next endgame, it is going to feel great when you play that final checkmating move and win the game. All right, once again, I'm National Master Alex King for Cool Math Games. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.